Welcome to the Lodown with Loren Meadows, a sideline sports production. I'm your host, Loren Meadows of GatorbaitMedia.com with the best shoe game in the Gator media, and we have lots to get into tonight. For the second week in a row, the Florida basketball team gets some good news as Alex is all in. Alex Condon will return to Florida next season, giving the Gators another great shot to return to the Final Four. We will be joined by Browne of SEC Sidelines to discuss Condon's return, as well as some interesting comments from Florida Athletic Director Scott Stricklin regarding the college football playoff. Crooks, the voice of Gator softball, will join us to give us thoughts on the baseball regionals, as well as Tim Walton's Florida Gators making yet another trip to Oklahoma City for the Women's College World Series. We'd like to thank our sponsors, Meldon Law and Titan MRI and Imaging. Please like and subscribe to Lodown with Loren Meadows on YouTube and Facebook, and follow yours truly on Instagram at Ohio Gator for Life and X at Real Ohio Gator. Let's get to it. Let's bring in our man, Browne, as we talk about the Gators bringing back Alex Condon. Condon averaged 10.6 points, 7.5 rebounds, 2.2 assists on 49% shooting, as the Gators obviously made the Final Four and brought home the national title. Everybody remembers Condon making that dive on the floor after Manu Sharp kind of traveled, balls laying around. There goes Condon, flips it to Walter Clayton, and there it is, Rob. But a big gift for the Gators to get Condon back for sure.
Well, I mean, it is because everybody has to recruit their own team back, but it's those big guys that can run up and down the court. That's huge. I mean, you can't have. You had 5 of those last year, and they're building it. And the Gators are going to be preseason probably 1 or 2 or 3, based on all this right now. But no, that's big news for the Gators.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it's almost a good and a bad thing, from the standpoint of you leave kind of things in limbo. Obviously, if he didn't go to the NBA, he was going to return to Florida, but being able to go and see what's out there, do the workouts, get the individual workouts with the teams, see what they think about you, bring that back, really harp on what you need to work on in the summer, and then get better. And, obviously they're going to have a great front line. Ruben Chinyelu is back. Micah Hanlogden. Obviously we talked about Boogie Flan last week, Xavier Lee, A.J. Brown, Isaiah Brown already on the roster, our friend of the show, so to speak, C.J. Ingram. We had my man on, joining the fold, top 20 recruit. So, I mean, it's really shaping up for the Florida Gators for sure. We'll talk to Crooks about that as well. He's done a lot of basketball, knows a lot about that team, its ins and outs. But Rob, yeah, I mean, you think about it. This is a team, going into the season. Obviously, you know how it is. You got to have some luck. But, looking at it way, way, way too early, it's definitely, I would say, a second weekend team for the tournament. It should be.
I mean, I don't think that's a reach to say that. Todd Golden, the way he coaches, he's a detail guy. I mean, you look at the way, talking about it last night, the way Florida won the national championship in basketball, it was the attention to detail at the very end. They had a plan for everything, but they had an answer. They weren't just solutionless, problems. And the way they won the game was because of what they prepared for all year. So, I mean, they're not going anywhere.
Yeah, no doubt. And if you look at, you look at maybe just 10 points, 7 rebounds, a couple assists, but, it was a very guard-heavy team for the Gators last season. So, they didn't really play through the inside. This will be a team that will probably make their bones a little bit more on the inside than they did this past season. But it kind of goes to show that numbers don't always tell the story when you talk about Condon's ability to rebound, defend, extend possessions, things like that, as well as Hanlogden should be fully healthy going into next year. So this is a team that could, arguably, if they don't have one of the better backcourts in the country, which I think they will definitely be at the top of everybody's list, probably along with UConn as one of the top teams on the inside for sure.
Yeah. I mean, UConn is, even though they struggled at a lot of the season, look at what they were like. Remember, Florida had to play a full 40.
Played them to the hill. Yeah, no doubt.
They're just, I mean, you know, Hurley he's going to have those guys coached. Again, the detail coaches, you don't have to have the best roster talent wise. You just have to be the hungriest, most physical, disciplined, detail oriented team to win it all. And we hear that term. Nick Saban made it famous, the process. But you've just got to, it's got to be in your DNA that you'll figure out a solution. And that's, I mean, look at the SEC. You know, Mark Pope, Kentucky spending a lot of money, but that alone, look at Texas A&M. I refer to them as Exhibit A every time. Nobody spends more money than them. Where's the ROI?
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and they got a new head coach at Texas. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. Speaking of detail oriented, we bring in a guy that knows a lot about one of the more detail oriented guys in the game of softball. Coach Tim Walton headed to yet another College World Series. This guy will be leaving, I think, tomorrow at about 6 a.m. Headed out there to kind of take note of things. And I think the Gators line up is Thursday, right? Noon. Thursday at noon. Yeah. And once again, I mean, I said that the cocktail party came to KSP, Kyle, and you were there for all 3 games. And anytime you can vanquish the Bulldogs, I'm sure the Gators love that. But you know, just speak to what that super regional was, how it was kind of an emotional. I think that Saturday game had everybody on pins and needles with just how many opportunities they let just slip by, and that just kind of brings the pressure to that Sunday game, second year in a row where they had to go to that third and deciding game. But just speak to what that super regional was, and then just the job that Tim Walton has been able to do with this team this year.
Yeah, it's been every super regional since I've been here, Loren. It's been excruciating to watch, and the fact that you're just on the edge of your seat every time. So I told Tim Walton this, and I think I've said it on the air. Every single World Series that I've gone through super regional, you win a super regional. So this is my 5th World Series, which is ridiculous, and it gets you, stubborn for more. But it's gone to a game 3. Every single World Series the Gators have gone to since I've been here, since 2018, there's been an if necessary game 3. This one was particularly frustrating because game 2, the one you lose 2-1, they probably win that game 8 out of 10 times, right? It was just something about that series. I think it was a total of like 36 left on base over 3 games, which is an absurd number. They left a small army on base on Saturday. They left 13 on base in that 2-1 loss, and they had left 14 on in the game they won on Sunday. They left more on than they did on Saturday. The difference was they had the big 4-run 5th inning. You know, the key for them is they're going to need the long ball. It was good to see Riley Holtorf have that home run in the 9 spot. 8 and 9 and really struggled heading into Sunday's game. And then Taylor Shoemaker, the news comes out tonight. She's the National Freshman of the Year. Well deserved. She's now 1 home run away and 1 RBI away from controlling the single season records, not just freshmen, of any Gator ever in home runs and RBI. She has 22 home runs, 86 RBI. Last year, Jocelyn Erickson had the Ribby record, so she gets it for 1 year, and then Shoemaker takes it from her. But you hope they found something a little bit in the 5th inning. But it was a typical super regional at KSP. It was, game 1, I think the Gators had well in hand, but then game 2, it's like, oh, are we really going to do this? Are we really going to let Georgia stay in it? And credit to Tony Baldwin and Georgia, but they weren't in Florida's league. They just weren't. Good thing too, Loren and Rob, Keegan was back to being sort of what we expected. She had a quick leash on Saturday because, Tim, they'd seen her a bunch on Friday night. So that quick hook, if it's a regular season game, guys, she's probably staying in there for more than the inning or whatever she pitched in game 2. And then game 3, she comes right back out, and she's exactly what you hope that she's going to be, and they're going to need her to be on Thursday afternoon at noon Eastern against Texas.
Yeah, I mean, Rob, and this, being an Auburn guy, anytime Georgia's around, man, it's just always tense. And that Saturday game, And Rob, you talked about it. You're very close with the Auburn baseball coach, and it's all relative. When you leave, one out of 14 with runners in scoring position on Saturday. I mean, as a manager, coach, how you want to call it, dealing with that and then rebounding the next day. I mean, how do those guys handle that, Rob?
Hell, you've got to not let that. Butch Thompson always says, "Don't let the moment be bigger than it is," and that's what too many times people just have a meltdown and they can't move past a mistake or whatever like that. But I love the Women's College World Series and watching out in Bricktown. I mean, Kyle, you've been to Oklahoma City, 4 times?
This is my 5th time coming up, I believe.
That place is incredible. But I mean, this is how many times have the Gators been to the College World Series in softball? I don't say women's softball because, again, there's no beer gut league for the men. These women, I mean, they're serious athletes. And I used to watch it when it was dominated by Arizona and UCLA in the West Coast. But damn, the SEC softball. Look at these stadiums; they're packed. People love it. I think this is great.
So 5 of the 8 are from the SEC in the World Series. I believe they had 7 of the top 8 hosts for Super Regional. And Arkansas is one of those storylines too. It's like they just had Brie Ellis win National Player of the Year. Sports is so interesting. Yeah. It's this living, breathing thing that, you can have great players, you can have great chemistry, but for some reason, it was like Peyton Manning I'm a Colts fan, against the Patriots in the early 2000s and like 03 and 04. Like he just couldn't until 06 came and they beat him at home and they had to come from 21-3 down. It's like there's certain LeBron against the Celtics when he was young, like getting over that hurdle. For Arkansas, it's just been getting to a World Series. Like they had all the pieces, and it just shows that you should never take for granted what Tim Walton has done here. So to answer your question, this is the 13th World Series the Gators are going to go to. All of them have been under Tim Walton since 2008. He was hired in 2006. So like 2 years to get everything going. And then 2008, he just went off and running. I believe their first champ series was 2009. And last year they made a big run into an if necessary semifinal game. They had Oklahoma on the ropes, took them to extra innings, and that'll be a huge storyline coming into the World Series. Can Oklahoma, without that senior class that had won 4 consecutive championships, can they win a 5th, resetting their entire roster? And they're the favorite going in. They're the hottest team. I think they're probably the best team coming in. Mm-hmm. And the Gators are on the toughest side of the bracket. So they'll have Florida, Texas will be the leadoff, and then you have Oklahoma, Tennessee, which is on that side of the bracket. So the winner is going to get probably Oklahoma. Now, I wouldn't count out Tennessee because they have the best pitcher in the world in Carlin Pickens, who threw a 79.4 mile per hour pitch, was the equivalent of over 110 mile per hour big league fastball.
Like, can you believe that? I mean, and she broke a bat. I wish we could find the video, Brendan. Yeah, shit. What's that? Yeah, broke a bat. See if you can find that, Brendan. But Carolyn Pickens broke a bat. It was this weekend, right? Like threw a ball and it actually broke the girl's bat.
Jody Ball, who was a National Player of the Year finalist, she actually fouled off that pitch that was 79.4. The previous was 78.2 or something. And there's a trend every time that Carlin Pickens faces the other team's best player, like gears up. Like the first one that was 78 plus was against Brie Ellis of Arkansas, who was the National Player of the Year. And then in the Super against Jordy Ball was the other National Player of the Year finalist. She threw 79.2, I believe it was. And
wow,
man, incredible.
Speak to this team, Florida. Breaking in, new third baseman, new shortstop. Even though they're older with honors, but still breaking in some new people, adding Taylor Shoemaker, but dealing with the ups and downs with Keegan Rothrock. Like you said, Keegan was finally Keegan, and that deciding game looked really sharp, looked like her old self. Like I said, even the home run she gave up was almost a victim of throwing the ball hard and physics just the ball just snapped off. It wasn't really a bad pitch. It was down and away in the zone, but just how he was able to manage the emotions of, people asking, and it's almost like DJ Lagway, what's up with him? all these things with Keegan and just bringing her back to get her ready for this moment to be in this position now, and how he was just able to manage that team, with some struggles. Corby Otis even had a great year, and Jossie Erickson had a really good year, but not as great as last year. So it's seen as a downward year. Here we go. We got the video coming here.
Oh, this is just the
that's it.
Yeah, right there.
Yeah, that's the one.
Right off the Mariana Rivera cutter.
Yeah.
She's the hardest thrower by far in the game. But yeah,
wow.
To answer your question, it's not been an easy year in that regard. There's a lot of coaching of an entire staff that's gone into it, and credit to Stephanie Van Brakel Prothro, who's a longtime pitching coach at Alabama. This is her first year here. It's been more of a staff mentality, and you saw it in game 2 of the Super Regional. They're going to need everybody now. If they want to win a national championship, this ain't going to be the Keegan Rothrock show like it was last year. Right. I think the hardest thing since coming back from injury is Keegan repeating a great start in back-to-back games. So usually if you get a good start or a bad start from her in a game 1, and she comes back in a game 3, she's great. So there hasn't been that steady consistency, and part of that is she hasn't had the normal reps. And I was talking to Tim, I think it was after game 1, he mentioned, because they have all this deep analytics, they can track spin rate, and Ole Miss was one of her first starts back. She got roughed up kind of early. She only had 4 pitches that had an above average spin rate. And for Keegan, that's not great. The velocity's been there, consistent, 72, 73, all that's good. But batters are so good now, if there's no spin to it, they can hit 73. On Friday, she had 28 that were above average spin rate. So you go from the 4 to the 28. That shows you that she's a little bit more comfortable now. And you have pitchers that are more comfortable in their role. I know coming into this World Series, I'm a lot more comfortable in seeing an Ava Browne in a 6th inning try to get 6 outs with a 2-run lead. I don't know if that necessarily was the case last year. We didn't even see her in the Super Bowl.
Yeah. Even saw a little bit of Olivia Miller too. I mean, shout out to Olivia Miller, pitched really well on Saturday.
That's a huge thing. Kara Hammock has the filthiest stuff of anybody on the staff, Keegan Rothrock including. Sometimes she doesn't know where it's going to go, and that's every pitcher. You got to command your pitches. And she was great. They threw up combined, I think it was 5 scoreless innings. Mm-hmm. And they only gave up 2 runs. Pitching wasn't the issue on Saturday. And they pulled Keegan early because they just wanted to give a different look. They saw Keegan a lot on Friday. That was a regular season game. Keegan probably goes a lot longer. But there's more of a staff mentality. And I think that's a plus coming in here to the World Series. The Gators didn't have that luxury last year.
All right. Well, we'll switch gears a little bit because you're not only the voice of Gator softball, but you do a little baseball and that as well. Gators were able to put 5 on the all SEC teams. Heyman, I think, was the first team catcher on the SEC team, even getting injured late in the year. But this baseball team gets ready to go to South Carolina to face Coastal Carolina, East Carolina, and then Fairfield rounds out that regional with the Gators. What do we expect from the Gators up there in Conway, South Carolina?
Yeah, from everything that I hear, it seems like it's a really good matchup. I don't cover it so closely that I would be able to tell you a whole lot about Coastal Carolina, but it seems like it's a ballpark that's pretty conducive to this lineup, much like softball. Baseball needs to hit a ton of home runs. I think the Gators baseball team has just been absolutely ravaged by injury, more than just about anybody in the country. Curlin, Kyle Jones, and in center field. Luke Heyman was a killer. I mean, he was the most consistent catcher in the game in college baseball. And you take that leadership, not just in the lineup, but behind home plate, the way that he's able to captain the defense, you take all of that out. And it was the Gators, if you talk to people that know it, probably 1 win away, that Ole Miss game in the SEC tournament, from possibly being a top 16 host. And the way they've been able to have this reclamation project of, I did that series, guys, when Florida played Vanderbilt in Condon, and they were at the depths. I mean, they were as low as low. They
Mm-hmm.
were 1-11. They got swept, and Vanderbilt turned out to be the number 1 overall national seed here in this upcoming tournament. The Gators just couldn't buy a win. Only had 1 win in the league, and they just turned everything around, and it was almost hit its peak when they took 2 of 3 against number 1 Texas. I think the lineup is built. I think there's a character to this team with the way they've gotten through this regular season when everybody left them for dead that is sort of built for the postseason. It's a different roster. There's no Jack Caglione, but I think it's very similar to how we saw the Gators go through Stillwater last year and Oklahoma State. I think it's a team that has 2 really dominant starting pitchers. That first game against ECU, don't overlook that. I mean, East Carolina has a really, really good baseball program, and you want to make sure you get to that winner's bracket games. Win those first 2, and you're set up to win that regional. They're probably, guys, the most dangerous number 2 seed in a regional that you can find in just about anywhere. But, I wouldn't be shy about picking the Gators here in this regional. How many home runs are they going to hit? It seems like that ballpark is set up for them to have a really big offensive weekend. Coastal, though, from what I've been told, really, really good pitching staff.
Yeah, I mean, Rob, I think you got the Gators coming out of that regional, so you can head down to your old stomping grounds because they'll get Auburn in the supers if it all works out for both teams. But what a luxury with Tim Walton and Kevin O'Sullivan. I mean, and then you throw Mouse Holloway in there as well. J.C. Deacon even. I mean, springtime is crazy down here in Gainesville. You're on mute.
Yeah, it is. We were talking about it last night. 268 SEC championships. Florida spring sports, really, you got to find. I mean, they're the first school to ever win 3 national championships in football, 3 national championships in basketball. That's never been done. And schools, Ohio State hadn't even been able to do that. But yeah, I think that it matters a hell of a lot. Florida's always emphasized this, but Tim Walton, just doing the math here, 13 out of 17 years been to the College World Series. Kevin O'Sullivan going for the 8th World Series since he came from Clemson. We talked about that a lot. But Kyle, that 79-mile-an-hour softball throw. And the thing about it is these pitchers can throw 200 plus, some of them 250 pitches, and do it again the next day.
Yeah.
A man's arm would be laying on the ground.
It's become more of a staff mentality in softball than it used to be. I mean, the days of Monica Abbott and Kat Osterman, I mean, they would just go. And people who don't follow the sport, they see the highlights and they look up in the pitch total and they see like 132 and they'll be like, how in the heck is she doing that? Like, it is a different arm motion and doesn't put as much tax into your arm. But I think the more that they dive into it, they're giving a little bit more rest to some of their pitchers, and there's more of a staff ideology to this game now than ever.
And it is like you go to football, running backs used to want the ball every play, every carry, 35, 40 times. Mm-hmm. Now 12 or 15, they're going, take me out.
Yeah.
So softball team mentality, I mean, it's a great team sport, but that's interesting that it's because you're pushing 80. And when they crack 80, that's going to change everything. That'd be like the first dunk in men's basketball.
Well, one person, it's like basketball. A Cooper Flagg can change an entire program, can change a franchise. Elijah Kennedy was paid just over $1 million at Texas Tech, the highest paid softball player ever through NIL. They're in their first World Series ever. You paid $1 million to get to a World Series, and you got it because she's going to pitch every single inning. She's going to hit for you. And like a Jordy Ball at Nebraska, she doesn't get paid that, but she's a $1 million player. If you want to get to the World Series, you can pay one pitcher, and you could probably get there because she's going to pitch every day of a regional, every day of a super regional, and she's going to get you to a World Series. And Texas Tech invested; they put the money in, and they're in their first World Series ever through one player.
And Oklahoma got the Love's Travel Plaza's attention.
Yeah, no,
They got
So,
$9 billion net worth.
right, oh yeah, it's unbelievable. I don't even stop at Loves no more, but I'm gonna leave it at that. That I don't at all. I run out of gas first. Between Loves and Pilot, no go anymore.
What about
Bucky's is
Bucky?
Texas A&M.
Well, yeah, well, I love Bucky's. I'm
Where
sorry.
are you gonna go?
I gotta go to Bucky's. I love Bucky's, so I'll never pass a Bucky's.
I was
but,
at a Bucky's a couple weeks ago when I drove to Athens for the SEC tournament. It was like a religious experience.
Oh yeah, no doubt, no doubt. Before we
Insane.
get you out of here, we're gonna do a little hype or have at it. You know, we like to get everybody's. We got about 3 of them for you. Hype or have at it. The Gators, after going to basically national semifinal, I basically say the Final Four of softball. Looking at this team and the way things stack up, murderer's row of the bracket. Is this a team that'll be playing next week in the College World Series? Hype or have at it, Kyle.
So you got to remind me the rules of engagement here.
Hype means it ain't happening. Have at it means it could happen.
Well, call me Mr. Homer. I'm gonna have at it. I look. If the Gators play the same way they played against Georgia, it's probably going to be hype. I think I'm going have at it at the potential of the lineup. You can't leave 36 runners on base and beat Texas and beat Tennessee. Like, you're going to lose 5-0, and that's going to be that. So I'm going have at it based on the potential of the National Freshman of the Year, an entire lineup aside from Taylor Shoemaker that has played in a World Series. This is the 3rd straight World Series for Kenley Cahalan. This is the 2nd World Series for Riley Holtorf. Jocelyn Erickson's played in 3 now. I can go up. Reagan Walsh has played in 3 now. I can go up and down this lineup of the amount of people that have played in multiple World Series, along with the vintage Keegan Rothrock. I'm gonna have at it.
All right, and this baseball team, they've been on the road before, regional, super regional, and found a way to Omaha. Is this a Florida baseball team, despite the injuries, that can make it to Omaha? Hyper have at it.
Well, because I'm wearing the Gator logo, I'm going to have at it again. But I truly think it's a team that, look, they're the hottest team in the country coming in. So it's not like we're just
Rob's an Auburn guy, and he was having at it last night. So yeah.
So is it completely unreasonable that last year we thought that Gator team? It's probably more unreasonable last year that we thought that Gator team would make it to Omaha than this team that's been one of the hottest teams in the country. Again, that Luke Heyman injury is an issue, but I think they have those 2 big starters that can get them through. They've sort of figured out the back end of their bullpen with Jake Clemente. And I think they can get enough offense. And then if you get through this regional and you have an all SEC super regional, we all know how that goes. I've broadcasted a lot of those. Anything can happen. I remember the super regional with Auburn, I think in 2018, when Austin Langworthy went opposite field and walked it off against Auburn to the World Series. So maybe the Gators can get a repeat of that.
All right. And then lastly, the big news in basketball, Alex Condon kind of rounds out the roster, back in the fold, going to forego the NBA, come back for 1 more year with Florida. Can Florida repeat now that Condon is back in the fold? Is that hyper have at it that we could have a repeat national champion, the Gators be the 3rd team, basically the 3rd of the 3 to repeat? Obviously, the 04s did it, then UConn did it. Now the Gators take a run at it in 25, 26 with Condon. Hyper have at it, the Gators could repeat.
Well, considering I wear the logo and I call a lot of their games, I'm gonna have at it. They're going to be preseason probably 2 or 3. I mean, I don't necessarily know the roster construction right now of a Purdue or a Houston, what they may look like. Like, they may very well be, Purdue or Houston may be preseason number 1, but they're going to be probably at minimum preseason number 3. Now, how do they deal with the expectations? Last year, this was a team that was barely ranked preseason in the top 25, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Now you have the bullseye on your back. You're the reigning national champion. You do lose the big 3, Martin, Richard, and Clayton. But they're bringing a lot in. So how do you deal with that expectation? Just like when the 04s, when they won that 2nd straight, they started to lose some games, and it was sort of iffy that they were going to get that 2nd straight national championship. Everybody was storming the court after they were beating them. How do you deal with that expectation? But I'll have at it that this is a team that can win roster-wise, win a 2nd straight national title.
Rob, get in on that one. Hyper have at it. Can Florida repeat now that Condon's back?
Yeah, because not enough schools have 4 or 5 big guys that can get in there, run up and down the court. They're not just, cannon fodder. They're guys that are good athletes. They can shoot. Yeah, I don't think there's any question. And I think it's really the coaching staff. And Todd Golden is a perfectionist, and those guys are coached. Look, there are very few really elite coaches in basketball. Hurley, him, Pearl, they're all good, really good at getting guys to play above expectations. You rarely see guys disappoint. That means that coaching staff connects. So yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that I don't wear the Gator logo, but I picked Florida to beat Houston for the national championship, 69-64. I almost hit that, but yes, they can win it all. They really
All
are.
right.
They're really that good. And the SEC's good. I like Todd Golden.
I feel bad. I didn't give hype to anything. How about hype to the fact the Knicks are probably going to lose this game 4 right now?
Yeah, the Knicks. Yeah, a little
You just got to
disappointed,
go
man.
down 21st, Lauren. And then
Right. Yeah, that series is weird. And as somebody who loves the city of New York, I was rooting for I'm a big New York City guy. I was rooting for the Knicks, but it may not happen. But what we do got, speaking of hoops, here we go. Kicks of the week.
Damn.
Holla at me, StockX, GOAT, somebody, we looking for some sponsors at the Lodown with Loren Meadows, but these are the foam posit ones, black with the vote. You like that, Rob? That's snazzy.
How many pairs of shoes do you have?
And we gonna keep it going. I don't know. We'll count. We'll see how many days it gets me to get through the collection, but we got at least enough for till next year for the show. So we got quite a few. So yeah. So I'm I got to keep up with Kelly Ray Finley. Kyle knows how that is. So,
Yeah.
But that's the kicks of the week. So, the foam posit ones made famous by, do you know, a guy out of Memphis? Who made these famous, Rob?
Penny Hardaway.
Penny Hardaway. There you go. So,
Yep, from Binghamton.
Yep. So that's the kicks of the week. But Kyle, appreciate you, man. I know you got to get. Are you flying or you flying, right?
Yeah, we're flying.
Okay.
6 a.m.
Okay.
tomorrow. Bright and
Okay.
early.
Yeah, man. We'll get on out there, get prepared, and I'll be on another flight Thursday morning. So I'll be watching games at about 2 a.m. next week. But if the Gators keep rolling, I'll be up watching them, man. Really appreciate you coming on. I always do a great job, man. And catch Kyle on the radio. He'll be covering where we're going to find you this week, Kyle.
Yeah, ESPN Gainesville, Varsity app. If you anywhere on the schedule page, you click the listen link, and we'll be there. So we'll have a lot of social media kind of behind the scenes content. Ryan Urquhart and myself will be calling the games, and hopefully get there in time tomorrow for their press availability. I think it's around 11:30ish tomorrow. They'll practice inside the stadium, which is always cool, and it's my favorite thing that I do outside of maybe calling some of the big men's basketball games that I do here at Florida. I love the event. 13,000 people. They pack the ballpark. It's a lot of Oklahoma fans, but it's one of the coolest things that I get to be part of. So again, grateful to do it, and grateful to be here. Thanks for having me.
Oh, man, great.
Absolutely.
Yeah, tell Ryan hello as well. You guys have a great time, man.
All right,
Thanks
care.
a lot, Kyle.
Thank you.
All right.
That 13,000 loves. I mean, well, that's Oklahoma City, but
yeah,
they're headquartered.
But saying, yeah, it's big. And speaking of, big time. Once again, we talk about it at the beginning of the show. Couldn't do any of this without our sponsors. Meldon Law, #1 sponsor. Been with the Buddy Martin Show, Gator Bait Media for quite some time. Appreciate him supporting the Lowdown with Loren Meadows. Proven and skilled injury lawyer since 1971. The only official law firm of the Florida Gators. We talk about it. They helped quite a few of us with some personal matters. And, whether it's, injury, property damage, things like that. But they can also point you in the right direction to somebody that can help you if they can't. They're very well established in the law community here in Gainesville and surrounding areas. And then once again, when football starts, soccer starts, as the sports start coming back, they'll have those giveaways, man, and they're really nice. We actually got to go down on the field, Rob, for the go down on the court for the Texas game. Got to present the game ball with the Meldons. So we won one of the contests. So it was really nice, my wife and I. So it really, really was a special moment, and we appreciate Meldon Law for all that they do for the Gainesville community, Gator Bait Media, and everybody else. So Meldon Law, we won't back down. Interesting comments, Rob, today from Florida Athletic Director Scott Stricklin, whose cachet I'm sure has raised a little bit. Obviously, he was a member of the College Football Playoff Committee, I think, when it first started. His first couple of years at Florida. But today, kind of pointed to the fact that maybe the way that they're picking these teams maybe isn't the best way. That it's not as subjective as they want to make it seem, and kind of shed kind of negative light on the way that these teams are being picked. Obviously, they changed it where now the four conference championships don't automatically get the 4 seeds, so the rankings will dictate who gets the top 4. But kind of interesting, those comments coming from Strickland, that this, maybe the playoff isn't as fluid as we would like it to be, I guess.
Well, as long as you got money involved, it's going to be very hard to be objective. That's just how it is. And Notre Dame, no matter what happens, they're going to find a way to be in there. Just like it was in the year of the virus, Ohio State played like 4 games, but somehow they got to be roadkill for Alabama. I mean, that was just sad. They weren't ready. They hadn't played any games hardly. But Scott Stricklin's comments about it being subjective versus it should be objective, as long as you have human beings.
Objective and yes.
I don't know how you can do that. And so you're going to go to 12, 14, 16, and then the comments by Texas A&M AD Trev Alberts. Go to 9, if you're guaranteed 4 spots. We better be careful, SEC and Big Ten squeezing everybody out. You don't want to lose those eyeballs. You had Ohio State, Notre Dame for the CFP title game this year, down about $3.5 million from the previous year. But then again, what were those LSU Alabama matchups and the Georgia Alabama, all SEC matchups for the CFP title? I'd like to look at those numbers. I don't think they're as good as you think they are. People like to see games, but one conference versus another or an independent. So Scott Strickland's a smart guy. He's been there from the very beginning. And General Clark, who's the new chairman of the CFP, they need to get this right so we don't lose eyeballs around the country because they just give up.
Now, Rob, let me ask you a question. And this is something that Buddy's brought up on his show, and it's almost like he prognosticated this thing because we're kind of headed that way. Yeah. Are we headed to like either a breakaway from the NCAA with college football where it almost becomes like an NFL model where the big dogs just go and you got divisions and the division winners make the playoffs and you might have 16 teams? Or are we headed to, like you said, super conferences where you just got it? I mean, you call it American. And I mean, are we fooling ourselves to think, those of us that like the nostalgia, we talked about it last night on Buddy's show with the regional matchups. Are we fooling ourselves to think that what we love is going to be around in 10 to 15 years?
The game will still be around and the interest will be there, but we're going to go. Jackie Sherrill, Buddy Martin back in the early 90s saw this coming. And I think you might have 48 or 65, Notre Dame be 65 teams. And then the other 68 in Division I, they'll have their own national championship and it'll matter. I promise you that. But the NCAA, let them run tournaments, let them run those kinds of things. They're good at that. But the big money for SEC, Big Ten, ACC, if they survive, Big 12, and then Notre Dame, there are going to be some programs that Texas Tech is going to be a factor. Cody Cameron was a letterman at Texas Tech, played in the NFL 2 years, worth a lot of money. He has gotten the ear of President Trump, Tommy Tuberville, Nick Saban. Watch these people, but I'm against anything that makes college sports more like pro sports. But it's just like a decision. It's like a decision on what investments to buy. Go with your heart or your head. You got to go with your head. My gut tells me that's where we're going, but that doesn't mean it doesn't blow up and we go back and say, you know what? Let's just go back to the way it was because we liked that. There are people that'll tell you they like getting up New Year's Day with a hangover, not knowing who the hell's going to win the national championship. You didn't know.
Right. I'm a big bowl guy. I love bowl day. New Year's Day,
Yeah.
bowl games used to be one of my favorite days of the year. I loved it. And that's what I want to ask you. I'm going to give you, we have made you honorary college football commissioner. And your job, Rob, is to fix the college playoff right now. Yeah. Fix it. What would be, give me a remedy if you got one to make this thing where at the end of the day, it's not about Alabama. And you know, I always say you look at it simply as if you had your last ham sandwich, and you've heard me say this, who you picking? And that's how you pick the teams. Last ham sandwich, 1 through 12. Last ham sandwich. Here we go. Now, with that said, I think we should go to 16 teams. And I don't think the buys should. I don't like buys, but fix it right now, Rob. Well, fix it in 2 minutes, and then we'll talk about go down another list.
Okay, no guarantees. Forget that. Throw that out the window. What we love about March Madness, the NCAA basketball tournament, is it's just wide open, and you've got to have that. If it's a predetermined, preordained, some of these teams are born on third base and think they hit a triple. And hell no. Look, in the 70s, we had a television aristocracy. You could be on 5 times in a 2-year period. And that did not make the game a national game. College football was a regional game. We cannot allow guarantees 4 for the SEC, 4 for the Big Ten, say 2 for the ACC, 2 for the Big 12. I'm not saying you're leaving out the little guy, but that's un-American. Every team, when they lace it up, strap it up, go to practice, they need to think, hey, man, it can happen. That's what makes sports so special. It was ruining a lot of the professional sports until they did salary caps and all. Now you got the Detroit Lions. They took their fans the last few years pretty far before they broke their hearts. Kind of like the Atlanta Falcons. But
right.
No guarantees. Just take the best 16 teams and let them fight it out.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like if, softball does it, baseball does it. If most of the teams are from the SEC, live with it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like they got to have everybody involved. And that's what, I mean, if Ohio State is the only team that competes, if Michigan is the only if they're the only 2 from the Big Ten, then they're the 2. If the ACC, Clemson is clearly going to be probably the only team in the ACC that can run with the big boys this year, that's it. I mean, I don't understand why that's such a, it's like in a game where you can literally get kicked in the face, theoretically, they want everybody to get a turn. It's the most violent game in the world, but everybody should get a chance. And like you said, no. You think of it, you look back, and we're going to talk about this, kind of lead it in. Florida in 2 consecutive years, or 2 out of 3, played the national champion tighter than anybody in the country. That was the LSU team in 19, and then the 20 team during COVID in Alabama. They played those 2 teams tougher than anybody. But yet they went to New Year's 6 bowls, but they were maybe the 2nd or 3rd best team in the country. And, you get those things, and it's like, why weren't they given an opportunity to play? So, I mean, you look at it that way, and, it doesn't make sense. Get the best teams, and I think people will be a lot more interested.
Yeah, look, if the government ever got out of farming, you'd find out what crops really are worth growing. I'm just telling you, living in Memphis, the largest small town in America, surrounded by rice, beans, corn, milo. That's just the way it is. Make it the 16 best. That's what's exciting. And so what? So if Boise really is good and Arizona State, hey man, there's a lot of people in Arizona that love college football. 6 hours from LA. And I see, they're right. Living in Memphis, trust me, man, I got a lot of Ole Miss friends. They didn't get it done against Kentucky last year. How did you do that? You didn't trail the LSU game until overtime on the last play, and you
Mhm.
lost. And then
Right.
you went down there and you caught an ascending Gator team. And my 200-day moving average, I had the Gators winning. I had them to win 3 of those last 5. They damn sure they did that, but they could have won 4. Texas wasn't going to happen without Lagway. Don't ever guarantee people like some kind of quota 2 for this league, 4 for this league. You can't do it. It's
Right.
not in the spirit of competition.
Right. Well, we got about 10 more, and for the record, and we can go back and look at tape. Yours truly also predicted at the beginning of the season that the Gators would beat Ole Miss, but I also said they win 8 games. Well, they did win 8.
I picked them to win 8.
Yeah,
You and I both
but
did.
we had to get to the bowl game. But yeah, we got the 8 in for sure.
That's okay, isn't it?
So I saw a list. I think it was our friends at Elite College Football, but I'm not sure. But I just wanted to, we like to kind of discuss. We got about 10 minutes left. So they looked at the top 10 teams of the 2000s. And, I always like to get your opinion on this. And this one kind of gets me too. So top 10 teams of the 2000s: 2001 Miami, 2019 LSU, 2005 Texas, 2020 Alabama, 2004 USC, 2018 Clemson, 2022 Georgia, 2016 Alabama, 2009 Alabama, and 2000 Miami. Now, I want you to fact check me on this, or Dan Bond can. The 2000 Miami team was the one that won the national title, and the 2001 Miami team was the one that lost to Ohio State.
No.
Now,
01 won it over Nebraska in the Rose Bowl.
Okay.
2002 lost an hour after the game to Ohio State.
So 2000 was the team that beat Florida then in that Sugar Bowl, right? That was the year before, I think.
2001 was Larry Coker.
Okay.
And they beat Nebraska soundly.
Okay.
2002, they lost.
That was with Shockey and all those guys, and then they left and came back. Okay.
Yeah.
So what do you think about that list, Rob?
If you don't have that 2019 LSU team is number 1.
Okay.
I mean, they beat 6 or 7 top 10 teams. That was an incredible run. 2004 Southern Cal, they played Oklahoma, and then they took away the national championship. Right. Hell, man, you can make a case for Auburn in that one. I mean, that was I don't know.
Right. Yeah. And my
go back over that list again.
Well,
because,
okay, we'll go 2001 Miami, 2019 LSU.
Time out. They had Miami as the best team in this millennium, is what you're saying?
Yes. And that would be Jeremy Shockey, Jonathan Vilma, Ken Dorsey, Willis McGahee, Frank Gore, Clint Portis. There's some dudes on there. Vince Wilfork. Let's see. I mean, I think they had the record of people drafted until the 2019 LSU, I think, broke that record. Yeah, of people drafted. But I guess my thing is, are we missing either Florida 06, 08 in that list?
Yeah, and I don't think I'd say Florida 06 was better than Florida 08. That's just my opinion.
Okay.
I don't think Auburn 2010, they were national champions, but they're not on that top 10 list.
Okay.
They just weren't dominant. They were really good enough to win 14 games. Golly, LSU 2019, that's the best team in this millennium. Alabama 2015, when they beat Clemson, I would say that was a good one. Alabama 2009, they barely beat Tennessee. Mount Cody fell down and squashed the kicker. He was so big.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
No.
Well, it's funny. Florida, if Colt McCoy doesn't get hurt, do they even win that game?
Well, Mac Brown, didn't he say something like, if Colt McCoy would have played the whole game, how would it have turned out? Wouldn't have even been close. Didn't he say something like that?
Yeah.
I don't know. That man, you got to, and now Georgia, 2022, they beat TCU 63-3 or something like that.
Yeah,
that was
crazy.
A really good team. But I'd put 2006 Florida in there. Golly, dominant teams. and you got to think about, I mean, Texas 2005, that's a pretty
Yeah,
damn good
and some
team.
players, yeah, Earl Thomas, and
But
I mean Vince Young. There's some guys that could really go.
but here's the
Yeah.
question. I'm going to ask you this because you know it. You've forgotten more than the collective world knows about it. But I'm saying, you mentioned all those dudes on that 2001 Miami team with Larry Coker. Do you base a team on how many guys went on and had great NFL careers, or can you like compartmentalize it and put it just in the context of that college? Because that Miami, Tommy Tuberville used to be on the show before he got another job. He was on our show every week. He was great.
Mm-hmm.
He said our practices were better than most games. Brett Perryman, Benny Blades, Alonzo Highsmith.
Oh yeah.
Jerome Brown.
Yeah. I mean, those teams.
Warren
Yeah. I mean,
Sapp.
well, and that's what I said. You know, I think, and we talked about it. And maybe I'm biased, but I think one of the more forgotten teams in history is the 1988 Notre Dame team, and maybe that Ohio State team. Whether they got a bad call or not, and we can argue that forever.
Yeah,
that was a football team that was able to play team ball and be in that game. Because it was a close game, whether it was and it was closer than people thought. You know, the defensive line of Ohio State handled. I mean, they basically cost, what was the guy's name, Romney or whatever his name was, that played center at Miami, hadn't given up a sack all year. I think he gave up 5 to the nose guard at Ohio State. Those are forgotten teams. When you talk about teams, yeah, I think you have to be careful judging, yes, how many people went to the league and that kind of thing and had successful careers versus, like you said, you talk about a team. I was watching the Catholic versus Convicts documentary the other day, and just the way that how physical that Notre Dame team was with Chris Zorich and Michael Stonebreaker and Tony Rice. And I mean, but it was a different time. So you view the teams different. You know, that Ohio State team under Tressel was a hard hat team and things like that. But, I mean, I just think it was one of those things where you look at these teams, and like you said, you could go up and down the line, but I think we agree there's maybe only 1 or 2 that doesn't belong on that list. I would say 2020 Alabama at number 4, COVID. I mean, there's a lot going on. Then it's hard to judge a team based on that,
Well, and they played an Ohio State team again that had played 4 or 5 games. The one thing you talked about, that 88 Notre Dame team, I had a friend, Chuck Lonzo, went to high school with at Christian Brothers High School in Memphis, was the starting center for Notre Dame, played for the Steelers in the NFL, opened up the first ever smokeless discotheque in America. But anyway, and Chuck, man, he talked about when Lou Holtz got to Notre Dame in '86, they went 6-5 that first year. So I looked around the locker room after a loss, didn't see a lot of guys crying, upset, but I did see one guy over there smashing his locker, putting his head through the wall in tears. Kid from Chicago named Chris Zorich, captain of the '88 national championship team. I think Jim Tressel gets maligned a lot. And that's why that 2002 team, I'm with you. I'm joking. We were all watching like 5 seconds.
I was drunk as a skunk in New Orleans. I don't know if I can say that.
It's okay.
It's a family show, but yeah.
But remember that game? I remember that. And Willis McGahee out of Pahokee, Florida, or Immokalee. I think he was out of Immokalee. Or that was Edgar and James.
Yeah,
but Willis McGahee tore his knee up and came back and had a damn good NFL career.
Yeah, he did.
This kind of talk, see, this is what we can't lose is the national love. We've made college football a national game. If we say you're guaranteed 4, I don't like that.
Right.
I do not like that. I like a scramble, man. I like a wide open. Let's go for it.
Right. And we'll end on that. No doubt. That's great ending for sure. Let's talk about Titan MRI and imaging. Titan MRI is now Titan MRI and Imaging. Titan MRI and Imaging was acquired ran by Joe Calorio, started Highfield MRI in 1997. Now he's back. Titan MRI now has 3 locations, 2 in Gainesville with this Park Avenue location, and now at the Millennium Center and 1 in Lake City, serving all of Columbia County and Valdosta, Georgia. Titan MRI and Imaging offers the same great customer service. They now accept insurance or through their convenient self-pay options. Coming soon to Ocala to better serve Marion County and the surrounding area. Titan MRI, it's your choice. Who you got on the show tomorrow, Rob?
Going to bat and lead off with Auburn baseball coach Butch Thompson. Going to talk about the regional and the college, tournament and everybody's trying to get to Omaha. We'll talk with him. We'll have Dudley Dawson, Hogville.net, talking about the Razorbacks. We'll have Vince Ferrara from Knoxville on the Hill, and we will bounce around and talk about all 16 of our brothers in this conference. And great comments, man. See, these discussions about college football, they get people May 27th, and I'm as fired up as the night that game was played.
No doubt.
Thanks for letting me be on.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, no doubt. I'll be out next week, but we will still be here, same time, same channel. I think Mr. Executive Producer Brendan Martin, want to thank him for all his work and support. I think you and him going to take us home next week, so it'll be interesting. Next week I'll be bouncing around. I'll be in Paris next week, so going to the French Open and all that. But really appreciate you coming on, Rob. Appreciate everybody listening. And we'll be back in a couple weeks reporting live from somewhere with the Lodown with Loren Meadows. Appreciate you guys. Thanks a lot.
Good night.